I've been spending a lot of time lately thinking about the different tropes that I enjoy and hate in fantasy. I've come to realize that even a bad trope can be done well in the hands of a skilled writer. Conversely, a generally good trope can also be done very poorly if the author doesn't know what they're doing. But that train of thought led me to consider some of my top picks for different fantasy tropes, and some that are at the bottom of the pecking order for me. Today, I'll be talking about my top 5 favorite tropes, and in another video, we'll talk about my most disliked tropes. And I won't necessarily be using the technically correct names for these tropes, but these are the names I gave them when I thought of them. And since we're talking about general tropes, I don't have any specific artwork to represent it, so enjoy some of my favorite Cosmere artwork as we get into the discussion. Anyway, this list is in no specific order, so let's start with friends to enemies. I love the friends to enemies trope. Now, I know that some people enjoy the enemies to friends trope more, since it's really fun to see such a conflicting relationship blossom into something beautiful. But that doesn't hold a candle to the alternative in my opinion. I really enjoy seeing best friends, maybe even family members, slowly get torn apart by something like pride or morals or goals or anything like that. I love the conflict that arises since you usually don't know who to root for. It's like watching a head-on collision in slow motion and you just can't look away. Maybe I'm just masochistic, which is entirely possible, but it's definitely one of my top picks. I like it so much in fact that the book I'm currently writing even has that as a major plot point. So yeah, you can safely say that this is one of my top favorite tropes of all time. Uncontrolled power. So this one probably comes more from my teenage years of watching tons of anime, more than it comes from my reading experience. So to explain, this trope is basically where a character has this powerful, unstoppable force of power within them. And when they get angry or undergo some kind of emotional trauma, that power gets unleashed and ultimately destroys everything in its path. If you think about it, a lot of anime protagonists have this as part of their character. But I've also noticed it's part of Rand's character in The Wheel of Time. Like, we know he's eventually going to control it, but for now it's very exciting to see him have those moments where he just destroys his opponent by unleashing his full power. And for future watchers, I'm currently on the second book of the Wheel of Time series for context. Also, I think that part of what I like about this trope is the journey the characters undergoes to control their power. It's heaps of fun to watch them slowly but surely take control of their abilities. And when they get to that final confrontation and actually use their power skillfully, it just wraps it up so nicely. Zero to hero. Now this trope isn't exactly the classic zero to hero trope you're probably thinking about, though it is part of it. I couldn't think of a better name for it, but what I'm talking about is when a character goes from a nobody to having a whole army and kingdom at their command. I also like the progression from being a nobody to being a competent and strong character too, but I definitely lean more to the former rather than the latter. For example, while I'm only 2 books into the Wheel of Time, it's pretty obvious that eventually Rand will have armies at his disposal. He will be leading the world against the Dark One, so naturally it makes sense that this will happen, though I haven't finished the series yet. And on top of that, he probably also will go from a nobody to some character that's kind of larger than life. So when I talk about this trope, that is what I mean. I wish I knew more stories where this happens, since I feel that this is sorely lacking in my current reading diet. If you know of any books where the character goes from nobody to having literal armies and nations at their command, then recommend me some in the comments below. Maybe I'll even pick it up at some point. Betrayal plots. Wow, I really don't do the happy and light-hearted tropes thing, do I? I'm looking at the list so far and I realize that I'm generally not someone who puts tropes like that high on my list, and this trope exemplifies that for sure. A betrayal plot kind of speaks for itself. I just love it when a good betrayal is pulled off, and it doesn't always have to be between major viewpoint characters. What comes to mind at the moment is the first book of the Song of Ice and Fire series, A Game of Thrones. Spoilers if you haven't read the book or seen the first season of the show yet, but when Littlefinger betrays Ned, I was instantly hooked. It's that kind of betrayal that you didn't necessarily see coming, but when it came you kind of found it to be inevitable. Random betrayals suck, but when you have a plot where there's a proper Judas moment and it's both tragic but also understandable, then you'll get my commitment for the rest of the story. If you can pull that off as an author, then I at the very least need to see what else you can pull off. Arrogant hero. This trope comes almost exclusively from two series I've read. One is a series on Wattpad I read years ago about a thief lord in a city of thief lords. I can't remember the name of it, but the protagonist in there was a lovable scoundrel that was not only arrogant but could also back it up with skill. The second series is, as you've probably guessed, the first Mistborn trilogy. I don't think you can hear this trope after having read Mistborn and not immediately think of Kelsier. He has the swagger, he's cocky, he's funny, he's super arrogant, but man can he back all of that up and then some. And I'm not talking about characters with an attitude or arrogance with nothing to back it up. That's the fastest way to make me despise a character. They have to be able to put their money where their mouth is. Only then will they have earned the right to be arrogant and full of themselves. If you know of any characters like that, then let me know in the comments. I'm always on the hunt for characters that can make me smile and also be in awe of their raw skill at the same time. I have a lot of tropes I like and dislike. I try to keep this video brief and to the point since I'm fairly sure my video on my most disliked tropes will probably run into a long rant. So if you're a fan of seeing me rage or get annoyed or just rant about things I despise, then stay tuned. The next video might just evolve into that if I can't keep my frustrations contained. Also, let me know what your top 5 favorite fantasy or even non-fantasy tropes are in the comments below. Would be interesting to see what you guys enjoy too. Oh, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel. You'd really be helping the channel out by doing so. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.